strong interest and passion in keeping Wilmington natural and beautiful, especially with all of the development going on these days. So I'm really excited to be here and learn what this is all about and do what I can to help.
Well, we are glad to have a representative of the realty and development industry on board. Thank you. And Andrew Blank, who he said as of last night was appointed. So Andrew.
Yeah, thanks. Great to be with you all. My name is Andrew Blank. I am a project manager at American Institutes for Research. It's a social science research nonprofit. We're based in DC, but I am lucky enough to work remote from Wilmington. I've been here for about 2 years. Prior to that, I was a submarine officer in the US Navy for about 6 years. My interest in trees and greenery is both from a public health perspective in terms of environmental justice and how urban green spaces support air quality and mental health and health outcomes. And then also as a runner, that was when I moved here 2 years ago, the first way I made friends is from a run club. And so I, especially in summer months, enjoy running under the shade of a tree and having some air to breathe. So real excited to learn from you and support this effort. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Next item of business is review and approval of the minutes from the June meeting. Are there any comments, recommendations for changes to our June minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the June meeting minutes?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All approve of the June minutes? Say aye very loudly, please.
Aye.
The June minutes are approved. The next item, Heritage Tree and Tree Awards. Alana and Kathy.
I was not at the last tree measuring, but I should have your certificate ready by the end of the week, if not the first part of next week. I bought certificate paper and little covers to stick it in.
Alana,
Awesome.
have you had any new ones in the last couple of months?
I don't think we've had any new requests. We did one heritage tree measurement, which are our new members aware of what this even is that we're talking about? Kind of. Okay. So Jim, you might explain it better, but it's essentially looking at the trees that either have some sort of significance naturally or historically, and usually they're very impressive trees. They're trees we want to preserve. And Wally, I know, and model other tree conservation after. And so there's a guide that we can go out and measure the trees for the diameter, the type, the spread of the branches. And then there's some like earmark trees or like format trees essentially that we compare it against. So like the live oak at Airlie is maybe one of our benchmark trees, and the other trees around town we can measure and compare to that particular tree. And of course it goes by species. So we've gone out and done a few of those around town to verify the size and try to estimate the age of trees. And we have a GIS map that the city runs where you can look at all of the heritage trees that are considered really old and kind of our showcase trees. And so these new nominations are ones where we're going out to verify the size and try to get them into the system. And we're trying to figure out some way to kind of recognize this. So as Kathy said, she's working on certificates. We're also trying to look at to maybe some sort of placard or something like that to mark the tree, although we've had some back and forth discussions about privacy and putting things on private land if people want other people coming to see the tree, if that's awkward or kind of how that would work. So it's been kind of a long story, but to try to shorten it, we've had a handful of trees this summer that we've looked at, a couple downtown, and we just did one I guess a few weeks ago near UNCW that was a really large live oak that looks like it's in great shape. It's huge. The people there were very pleased to have us come look at it. I think it should definitely meet the certification standards. And they also had a big sycamore tree there, which we hadn't looked at before, but we thought maybe there was something to that. But Jim, we may need to talk a little bit more about what that means for those other types of trees in addition to live oaks. Sorry, I kind of hogged the floor there. Wanted to clue you guys.
Is it live oaks only now or no?
No,
No.
it can't be anyone but we've been looking at a lot of live oaks. Those
Right.
seem to be the most popular down here, obviously.
And is it cyclical or is it anytime? Laminations can come in anytime.
Let me tell you a little bit about the basis for determining how a tree is evaluated. Alana mentioned measurements that are made of the trees. These measurements are based on the American Forest Association's National Champion Tree Program. And there are very specific guidelines on circumference, crown spread, and height that then goes into a formula to give that tree a number of points.
Mhm.
And then one of the criteria is whether that tree attains 75% of the points of the champion tree in that species in North Carolina. So for live oaks, they're being compared to the Airlie oak. It is the state champion live oak in North Carolina. One issue we've had in the past is whether we would accept non-native species. And there are a few trees in non-native species that are on the heritage tree list because they were very, very large examples of that species here in the city. But it's a program that, as Alana and Kathy have both alluded to, that we're trying to sort of resuscitate and get back on track and advertise and get more of these wonderful trees around the city into the heritage tree program. Whether that will help save some of these large live oaks that may be in the way of development, we don't know. But at least if it's on the heritage tree list, we can hopefully help save some of these that may be in the way of development. So any questions about that program?
Mm-mm.
Valley, update on the urban forestry master plan, please.
Morning, everybody. I don't have a major update other than we are looking at the recommendations and building out an action plan for many of the recommendations. Does anybody have any questions for me about the urban forestry master plan?
Mm-mm.
Tom wanted me to ask a question. What are the next steps that the tree commission can help you with?
I understand. I think we need to come up with an internal list and bring it to you guys. I mean, really, I think it'll be clear if we can get some of the recommendation in bullet point form and then see how they may be incorporated into your strategic plan. So I'm sorry, I just don't have that prepared, but, and I need to make sure you get a copy of the urban forestry master plan, Andrew, so that you can take a look at it. That was just recently adopted by council a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think sort of being involved in implementation of the master plan will be sort of a good goal for us for next year.
Absolutely. And we certainly can't do it alone. Your support was really important in getting it passed. And I told Connie at City Council when it went through that now you're going to hold us accountable to it. So there's certainly some work that needs to be done. And I appreciate you wanting to know more about it.
Aside about that, I've had several folks who have asked me about the trees that are being taken down along Market Street. Why are they taking down trees along Market Street? And I keep trying to tell them they need to come down and be replaced. But there are so many
Yeah.
people who don't
That,
care how bad a shape the tree is in. They'd hate to see them come down.
I've got a question. Is that master plan now on the city website?
I will need to confirm that. I had requested it be put up there, so it should be, but I'll double check. Are you not able to find it?
Well, I'm asking because I live in Carolina Place and my neighbors are all up in arms and have no understanding that these are not live oaks, that they're laurel oaks. And in trying to educate them, all they're worried about is hugging their tree and making sure that we don't cut them down. And I'm like, they're dead. And remember the guy in the Jetta where the tree fell? You don't want that to happen to your family. And they still are just adamant that these trees shouldn't leave. So I keep referring them back to the master plan and that it's available.
Well, I think a follow-up article in Port City Daily would be useful because the article was straightforward, and for me, it makes perfectly good sense. But as Kathy said, and I have a very, very, very good friend that lives on North 23rd Street, north of Carolina Place. And she has a huge network of friends who, as Kathy said, can't stand to see any older tree cut
Right.
down.
They want trees of the same size put in, and I'm like, you realize this is an urban area, that these trees are not capable of surviving this way anymore. They'll have to start with smaller trees. They don't want to hear it. They just don't want to hear it at all.
Yeah.
I think that if they could see it in black and white, it might be a little easier on them.
Yeah, some more education I think is needed there.
It's, the master plan is on there, is on the city website.
Oh, thank you for double checking.
Do you post the direct link to it? And then I will make sure that every time this conversation comes up that I'm posting the direct link.
Yeah, where's the
That would
chat?
be great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I'll also share that our job in terms of public communication is not done yet for this project. When we presented it to City Council a couple of weeks ago, they requested that when we get closer to the actual removal date, once all of the stars have aligned, and I'll describe that in just a minute, what it's going to take, because there's a lot of logistics. So our communications department will be pushing out more public communication to those direct neighbors, as well as the public at large. We'll have information on social media and also on our website. I'll also add that Council Member Neil Anderson requested that we put up some signage on the actual street to indicate what's going to be happening and direct folks to additional resources about why the trees need to be removed and our plan for replacement. We've tried to be really intentional to talk about the fact that any part of a forest management plan comes with replacing what you remove. So, we have to be responsible about removing hazards, especially on a busy corridor like this. And I know I'm preaching to the choir a little bit, Kathy. I appreciate you being a voice in the public as well. It's super helpful to have you as a resource and for you to be so knowledgeable, and everybody else on this board. But planting trees back is just as important of a job for us, because that's building the next generation of our urban tree canopy and all the benefits that it provides to this community. So it absolutely has to be done. I will also share that the logistics around this project are frankly a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
Because it is busy and we're impacting where people live, and we want to make sure that we're respectful to them and that we're providing them all the access that they need. It is an NCDOT street and it is in a historic district. So we have several hoops that we're still jumping through with NCDOT. They have been very cooperative. They've offered to provide traffic control for us, which is a big deal. It's a huge expense and a big labor expense as well. So that has to be coordinated. Their State Historic Preservation Office is requiring that they have information from the city, and that there's a lot of awareness from City Council. We've had to issue a specific memo essentially requesting to remove these trees. Once all of those things are in place, which I anticipate they absolutely will be, because NCDOT understands the need for the project to occur, then we have to mobilize contractual help, our in-house staff. If you can imagine the size of these trees, we're going to have tons and tons of wood waste that we have to deal with. So just the scale of the load and haul operation, not to mention the complexity of the removals, because a lot of these trees are in poor shape, making it more difficult to take them down. It's going to be pretty epic. And I don't think it's going to happen in a weekend. So I guess I'll just share, that's might be more detailed than you want, but this is not going to happen next month. And it's probably going to take several months to accomplish. And I think knowing all of that, our team is going to do their best to make sure you stay informed, the public stays informed, and that we minimize the impact to that neighborhood and the street at large.
Thanks a lot for
Sure.
that, Sally. Yeah. Sounds like y'all are on top of it. Any other questions of Sally? Strategic Planning Committee updates. The first one, not much is happening on that because I'm responsible for it and I'm not doing much on that. The goal there is develop some kind of educational brochure on how the tree ordinance and tree permitting requirements affect homeowners. Craig worked with the inspection department and developed the draft, and I think it needs to be expanded, and it's just sitting on my desk, not getting any action right now. But I will try very, very hard to have the next draft at our next meeting. Resource commitment. Tom is out of town. Kathy, anything to be added there?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Hey, Jim, I think we might fold that SMART goal into item 4.
Okay.
Because that's essentially what we're looking at, is what are our next steps, and ultimately a goal for the next year. So I'll make that adjustment going forward, just so that we've got some clarity.
Okay. And community education, the major thing we're working on there is a recommended list of native tree species. And Kate has been doing the hard work of trying to get that organized.
I did it. I think I can give you an update if you want.
Please, yes.
No, this is on, this is.
Yeah.
Hey, Kate, can you give them the
You're
big
on now.
picture for all our new people?
Hello, I haven't produced anything that you're looking at yet, but my goal is, I wanted to, over the last many months, to produce these lists of more user-friendly lists for the homeowners and anybody else interested in trees. So I came up and formatted 4 spreadsheets, and I'll go over them right now. We have the large shade trees. All these trees are natives. Large shade trees, then on Jim's recommendation, the terminology showy flowering trees, because I taught plant material for 40 years to graduate and undergraduate, and I didn't want to use a lot of nomenclature and scientific terminology. It would confuse people. So that was part of the thing I was wrangling with, how to make this accessible. And so showy flowering trees, and then larval host trees, native trees that actually are not just, most flowers can be nectar flowers. Many are not as good as others, but they all are nectar flowers for pollinators. But host trees that actually supply the leaves or the habitat for butterflies is a very different category, and that's critical. So those trees are on a separate list. And then the list I just completed last night is what I titled beneficial to wildlife trees. And then I gave a little explanation. I based it partially on the Doug Tallamy book, Bringing Nature Home. So it has a lot of oaks, because those are the primary ones. And I explain why they're the primary ones for habitat, because they support between 150 and 300 species, organisms. And then I have, if you want me to add more to that list, I will. But then I have native trees, and then I go into a category that is a lot of people don't know about, which is high lipid fruit, which is for migratory birds. It's like Nissus sylvatica, and some Crataegus, which are hawthorns, and Lindera benzoinum, which is a spice bush. And so I did this category, and I then went into shrubs, because there are about 8 critical shrubs with high lipid fruits, mostly shrub dogwoods, viburnums, etc. Sassafras, well, that's more of a tree, but and Rhus typhina, which is the staghorn sumac. So that's what I did, and I put together a little write-up of why natives. And I wanted to ask you all, how much information for the public do we need to help and handhold with, and how we make these are all spreadsheets, make these accessible to people, how they would access it on our website. I talked to Connie Parker with Alliance for Cape Fear Trees, and I told her I wanted to make sure she had the list once they're finalized and edited. And then I wanted to send it to the Arboretum, and anybody, and like there's a native plant festival coming up.
Yep.
It'd be great to have a link to that. But I just want to make sure, with your eyes and your intelligence, is this accessible enough? Is this understood why we're doing non-natives, no non-natives, et cetera? So that's where I'm asking for your help, is to look at these and give me your comments. And I know there are, on the last group, I had some variation on the heights. The way I talked about them, I said like 30 to 60 feet, but my granddaughter was over 3 weeks ago and she was doing the apostrophe. So it's not all exactly smooth yet, but it's just, so I'd appreciate your input. I'd really be grateful.
Could you send those to Craig and let him send them out to everyone?
He has them.
Yeah, Jim, actually, I've got the first three. I've gone ahead, first sheets, and I've combined them onto one spreadsheet
Okay.
and cleaned them up just so they're formatted consistently. And then Kate sent me the fourth one last night. So what I'll do is go ahead and finish that one and send it to the group. I think I can get that by the end of the week there. So you're going to get one spreadsheet with 4 tabs across the bottom that are all matching up with what Kate was just telling you. And what we're looking for is your thoughts on does it make sense, from we want this to be to our citizens. So kind of a layman's approach. And then we can try to decide if we want to, break them up into 4 separate ones. We want to have one document. I can easily put it on our Wilmington Tree Commission site, probably as a PDF, because I think it's easier for people to pull off. But we could turn into pamphlets but I'm excited about this one because we've had a lot of people asking about native trees and trying to they always ask a little other things like, how high do they grow, all that stuff. But Kate's done an amazing job on this, and it's a huge amount of work she's done. So I'm, pleased that we can have that, something going out, but I'll have that to the group at the end of this week here. That's my goal.
Kate, if you'll send me that paragraph you've written about why native trees.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
I've done some of the same kind of things, so let's get together
Yeah.
and work on something.
Because people do need to understand why we're pushing native trees over non-natives.
Yeah, and I think something important to note somewhere in this sort of general description for folks is that when you see caterpillars chewing on a tree, typically you should not worry about that unless the tree's being defoliated, because those caterpillars are feeding young birds. So those kind of things we need to incorporate in that.
I did say something in the high lipid fruit or the benefits wildlife category about how critical caterpillars were for birds and especially birds.
Yeah.
And something in my coevolution about how native trees have the capacity to produce their own chemical arsenal of insecticide in their leaves so that the caterpillars don't eat all the leaves, or else they die and the tree would die because they have toxins in them. So I did explain that a little bit in my why natives, but anyway.
Well, the issue we have with insects that kill trees is all non-native insects. The insects that have co-evolved with trees are adapted. They don't kill their hosts. It's the non-native invasive insects that are our issue. Okay, along those same lines, then let's.
Oh, can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah, sure.
It sounds like you guys have done some great work. Thank you. I wonder, it's early enough in the semester. I wonder if it would be advantageous to maybe recruit a student to put together some ideas for brochures. I know we maybe aren't quite there yet, but just to start piecing things together and maybe streamlining some of the narrative stuff, getting some pictures together just so we have something to put out once we're ready. Is that something that would be helpful at all?
A student project like that would be great.
I could use all the student help I could get because of my blindness, as you all know, I'm legally blind, and doing this spreadsheet was the reason it took me so long is I first had to learn how to do spreadsheets blind, and I'm not great at it. I'll be honest with you, but I'd get training. And then on top of that, I have a lot of more projects. For example, I'd like to put out a list of screening, both broadleaf and needled evergreen screening recommendations and
Mhm.
stuff, because
Yep.
homeowners are always looking like, and they use so much of the in not correct non-natives for screening that don't even have long lives. So there's more projects I want to do, but it's hard for me. I'll just be honest with you. It's hard when you can't see the screen. It's editing's really difficult. You have to listen for your errors, and you don't hear them.
Well, I commend you. You're doing a great job. And our students, I don't know, because we're in tourism, rec, and sports, they definitely would be the layman looking at the information that you've put together. So I don't know, that might actually be helpful to kind of have an eye of somebody that's almost doesn't know anything about this kind of topic area, to see if they could put something together that makes sense kind of to the general public. But because of the timing, I can try to recruit for that in the next couple of weeks here, and try to have somebody in place maybe by the time we have our next meeting that we could use at least for the semester. And then we can, if you want to brainstorm in the meantime, like how exactly we can put this person to use. I mean, I have some general ideas about brochures, but I could try to make that a goal for our next meeting, to have somebody that's committed for the semester.
Excellent. And the next item that I added to the agenda is the Native Plant Festival, and it's coming up real quick, like 1 month. But we received an email back in late July from Nancy Laffey, inviting us to participate in the Native Plant Festival. I will follow up with Connie, because I know ACFT always has a booth there. But what we got to think about is what kind of informational materials we might add to ACFT's booth at the Native Plant Festival. And maybe we can get at least some kind of rough PDF of your spreadsheets available to hand out at that.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. And Craig has also found an old tree commission brochure that we had talked about updating, and Craig, let's talk about that some more. At least we can have some materials on ACFT's booth to hand out to folks at that festival.
So we might join the Alliance in their booth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim, I did that the festival last year, and so we just joined with the Alliance booth. They have a lot of educational material. We do a lot of things with them. Kind of think of Alliance as the group on the ground that's planting trees, getting grants and so forth. And you know, our role tends to be more of where we are helping, you know, provide information for the city in regards to regulations, comments, instructions, guidance. We do the recognition of our trees through our Heritage Tree Program and Heritage Awards, and then this great education thing through our website. So participating at that is really, people will come up with questions that I would love to have Jim and Kate there about, you know, what do I plant here? What do I plant there? But it's an engaging group over there. There's a lot of neat other ones to commit with, but if anyone is available, you know, I think they would take an hour, 2-hour shifts kind of thing. And then we could coordinate that with ACFT. And I think I can get that brochure. There was one clunky little thing. For some reason, I'm looking at you, Andrew. It's just getting a link to some of these websites that were already out there without putting a QR code on it. I'm looking at these really long ones. So maybe we'll chat after this. That's my only thing holding up printing it. So I can have that ready if there's somebody that you know can participate at the session.
Well, I'm going to plan to be there, and I'll follow up with Connie on what the plans are for the Alliance's booth, and we can certainly have a presence there.
I'd like to be there.
Absolutely.
And if we're
We
handicapped,
need a couple of experts there to answer questions, Kate.
I've been there.
Yeah, I know it. So we'll continue to work on what we can do in the way of having some materials ready for that. And I will follow up with Connie on what the Alliance's plans are for a booth. I know, as in the past, she plans to be there. Connie's not with us today, so we'll skip over that.
Hey, Jim, I can give you two things from
Okay,
the meeting. One for the people that aren't familiar with Alliance for Cape Fear Trees. I think they're probably 7-8 years old, but they have just hired their first paid part-time executive director. His name is Dan Camacho. Dan doesn't actually start till September, but Dan is already doing work. I think you really enjoy him. He's passionate, bright, energetic. I think he'll bring a lot to that group. They also now have an actual office off a shipyard near Cardinal. So I don't know the specs on that thing, if they can have meetings out of there, but they certainly have a space for their director, their admin, and their supplies and stuff. And I think one other thing, I'm not sure if you remember, Jim, there was something about the bounty, the Bradford Pear bounty.
yeah, the Bradford
Is it
Pear Bounty Program has
November?
been,
November 4th.
mhm.
Anything you could shed on that one, Jim? Or Sally?
Yeah, well, I can mention it. What's commonly called the Bradford Pear Bounty Program is a program started by the North Carolina Extension Service with some fairly small funding last year, but more funding for this year. Folks who have a Bradford pear or Calorie pear in their yard and agree to remove it will get a free replacement tree. So that program is going to be starting up again this fall, and hopefully there'll be some information on that at the Native Plant Festival as well. I know that Lloyd Singleton, with the extension director, will be involved with advertising that. Any new business, anything we need to bring up for the 3 new members? If you're not a member of the Alliance for Cape Fear Trees, it's very, very easy to do. Go on their website and sign up for the email list, and that makes you a member. And of course, you will get an occasional email asking for monetary support.
Jim, do you think we should send everybody's contact emails and everything so we can all communicate?
Yeah, Craig, if you would update that member list that we worked on a while back and send that to everyone, that would be greatly appreciated.
I can do that. You'll also, the email that you got with your agenda has everyone except for Andrew, who came on today, but I'll create another list there and send that out, but you do have access to everyone else.
All right. I've not been directly involved in that, but for those folks who may have some interest, there is a training program that is. Yeah, there's a training program that's starting up called the Tree Stewards Program, the Alliance for Cape Fear Trees, and of course, the city forestry program working together on this, with the long-term objective being to develop a cadre of volunteers who have the training and the authority from the city to help with some of the management of all these new trees that are being planted, and so many of them have not been properly cared for in their first year or so. So there's a training program that's being developed, and there should be information on the ACFT website, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So anyone who may have an interest on that, the information is on the Alliance for Cape Fear Trees website. Any other new business? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting, and our next meeting is yeah, you've got Wednesday, October 16th on the agenda. What's the date?
September 20th.
September 20th.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next meeting, 9:30 here on September 20th. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks, folks, for attending. Nice to have all of you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Put us to work.
Bye, have a great week.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.